Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes, here with Chuck Manley and Scott Moon. I hope everybody had a great Easter yesterday. I mean, really,
it's good.
I ate way too much pie. Have you guys ever had that? What's that? It's better than sex cake. It's like,
no, but I'm intrigued.
Oh my gosh, it is the most ridiculous cake you've ever had, and it's like super rich and thick, and you eat like a whole piece and you can't walk for like 30 minutes because you're just so like, I ate like 3
just
pieces.
like sex.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then you fall asleep.
And then you fall asleep. You have a cigarette and you fall asleep. Yeah.
Right.
Welcome, everybody out there watching the live feed. Rick Partlow, crazily enough, got the first comment of the day, so he gets the Keystroke Medium golf clap.
That's like his first time, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's his first timer there. Yeah,
first time ever. Welcome, Rick. Let's see. Lauren and Lou are in the show. Scott McGlasson is watching. Hello. Good morning. Scott Moonrider is watching the show. Hey, Scott Moonrider. How are you?
Yeah. Slipped in there.
Yeah.
I had some quality content there in the chat. I said, yo.
What's up, Keith Taylor? And Jake Lifton Slater's in the house. Welcome. Good morning. Hope everybody is having a great Monday. But yeah, I had a good Easter, man. I had a whole bunch of family over to the house. We did a combination Easter egg hunt lottery ticket hunt. And that was probably the most fun I'd had on Easter in a long time.
You should just take like a 24-pack of Natty Light and scatter those around. Like those things.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It was cool. My brother-in-law brought like 30 lottery tickets, and we just like hid them along with the eggs. And so
wanted to get the adults involved.
There's a whole family thing.
Yeah. Nice.
Man, it was a good time. I haven't done any writing today yet so far, but I've got an idea brewing on what I want to work on today. And what we're doing an AMA today. So if you're watching the chat and you've got a question for us or thoughts on something, put it in the chat and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, please, for God's sake,
help us, please.
Well, our other option is to talk about
help you.
Talk about this new app, and so I'm excited because it'll be my one chance to like legitimately have a reason to look at my phone while we're doing this show. But also, if you heard the pre-show, you'd be like, "Oh God, this is not going to go well." I
wish we could have done that on air because
it shows my level of sophistication and Josh's immense patience with my like complaining about every single possible feature that is on anything. And using honestly, profanity.
Well, you were complaining about the features that weren't there,
right? Oh yeah.
That's the thing.
I mean, why
Josh,
limit yourself?
Like Josh was the app developer or something.
Yeah. Why did you do this to me, Josh? You app creator.
We should have charged Chuck, I think, for that, Scott.
I had to mute my mic because I was afraid I'd laugh too loud or something,
or learn new swear words. Although you probably know all the swear words, I know, but. I guess
if you're watching or listening on the feed and you didn't know we have a live feed Monday morning at 10-ish, unless we take the day off like we took off last week. It's been 2 weeks since we've done a show, and I don't feel rusty. That's the first time ever that I don't feel rusty.
We're one of the only people in our niche, I think, that do live shows, and which I think is interesting. So we do live shows, and biologically, they all do dead shows. So our shows are alive, and they're dead.
Those shows are undead.
Those shows undead, zombie apocalypse, flesh falling off their faces. Ours is way better.
I didn't realize that, but you're right. I think most of them.
A lot of them don't. And a lot of when we first started, that was one of the things is people would get guests on the show and like, is this going to be live? And you could just see the terror in their face. Like, no, we're going to make it easy. We'll make it easy.
Good morning, Silent Wolf. Hello, how are you? I think one of the cool things I like about our show over pre-recorded shows is all the pre-recorded shows can edit out their mistakes, and we just have to roll with it.
Our mistakes are most of the show.
Yeah.
They're part of our charm.
Part of the show. That's right.
Remember when we had a 5-minute show with 55 minutes of mistakes?
Yes. That's every week.
I guess Dead Robot Society does live shows, but only for their Patreons. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
If you're a Patreon supporter, but we don't have a Patreon.
I posted a picture, I think it was last week in the KSM group, about one of our first shows, and it was one of the first shows that you were at the Smarter Artist Conference in Austin, like in 2016.
Yeah.
And we were
like our second show, and I tried to do it on my computer in the hotel room.
In the comment of that, you were like, I had so many technical difficulties. And Lauren was like, and that was just the first of many.
The first of infinite technical difficulties. That's really the definition of life. One technical difficulty after another.
So I mentioned we're going to do an AMA, Ask Us Anything show this morning. We're also going to talk a little bit about Plottr, which is a new program that we've found thanks to one of our friends in our writer group. Jeff Haskell came across this program and mentioned it in the group, and I've been checking it out over the last couple of days. And I think it's pretty cool, pretty simple for
let's be honest, Josh squealed because he loves plotting, so
like, and it's called Plottr, so I was like, money right there, I'll just give you money for that.
We decided it's a POS, so we decided that means piece of software or something else.
Or if you're Scott and you just want to do things that the app won't let you do, then
it's the other thing.
So
I noticed one of the templates you can start a project in is, I think it was called Take Your Pants Off or Put Your Pants On or something like that and I looked at it, and it's just, here's your story idea, go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I and that's another cool thing about the program that I want to get into is that it has, like, we talk about how to write a story sometimes, and we talk about like the different methods, like the snowflake method or the story circle or whatever. This program has those already built into it, which I think was
structured
cool.
out. I'm looking at the action adventure template right now, and I'm like, this could be super useful for a lot of people.
But before we jump into that, let's do our updates.
No.
Yes, and since you said no, you get to go first.
Not much to tell. Working
and show.
Inching in on the end of Jack Dark 2. I spent all weekend doing family stuff for Easter, so I didn't get much done this weekend. But that's really been about it. The kids were home all last week for spring break, so I was busy with them. So I didn't have a real productive week last week. But I'm just getting a little bit every day to try and get to the end of that book so I can get on with book 3. And I may actually use this Plottr to try and plan out book 3 better than I did book 2. So, that's mine.
What about you, Scott?
So I sent off Blue Sun Armada to the editor. I have that up for pre-order in May. And I am closing them on about 70,000 words into Orphan Wars 2, which is going good. I'm really liking where that's going. You have those things where you start to write and you're like a little bit like, oh, how can I make this unique? And then something just comes to life. And so I have some really cool stuff I like with that. So that's been happy. I decided to start doing my yard. So yesterday and the day before, I worked in the yard all day long, and it was terrible. Like, the only thing that makes me more let's say verbally expressive than technical issues on the computer and apps and stuff is doing the yard, because I have no tools. Any project at home, I have no tools. Like, Josh has every tool. This is my conversation with Josh. Like, I'm building a deck and I had to go buy a saw. So now I have a new saw.
Yeah.
And he was like, I went and dug a steak knife out of the kitchen drawer, and now I'm using that to cut a tarp out in the yard because I have to put it down over this landscaping. And so the thing that made it the most fun, just the highlight reel, I guess, of yesterday. Well, two things. I bought this aerator, and you have to put weight on it, and then you drag it around. It's really cheap. So I put a 55-pound dumbbell on it and dragging it around. It's falling off my feet. It was a great time. It's hilarious. But then I go to do this. We put some bushes between our houses, and we live on a hill in Kansas in a newer development. And
there are hills in Kansas?
It's like the only one. But no, it is literally the highest point in Sedgwick County is where I live. And there's not a lot of trees around. And so between our house and our neighbor's house, there is a wind tunnel and I'm trying to put this tarp down over this landscaping, and it's like a 50-mile-an-hour wind. It's like blowing, everything out of and I was like, there was some frustration, but I persevered, and I got it basically done for now. And then I came in and installed Plottr. I didn't skip just to that. And then I called Josh and asked him 100 questions and yelled at him because it didn't do it the way I thought it should do it.
I did the yard too, but I didn't get an aerator. I pay people to do that.
Next year I'm paying the service to do everything. I'm literally not even going to go. I'm going to pay somebody to move me across the yard. I'm not even going to touch the yard. I'm like,
I'm the same way. I hate yard work. I don't actually. The mowing is okay. Like I've got these noise canceling work outside headphones that connect to my phone, so I just listen to audiobooks while I'm mowing, and that
they would blow off in my yard.
Yeah. And then I weed eat and I'm done. And then I pay other people to come do all the whatever it is, the feeding and the treatment and all that stuff. My green thumb is brown, and so everything I plant dies, and I don't mess with that.
Yeah.
Let's see. What have I done this last week? I've made some good progress in Tranquility 2. Devin has actually finished the draft, and so now we're going through and cleaning it up a little bit. The goal is to have the second book done by the end of the month. I made some good progress on the Savage Stars story, and have some good news about that. I can't share yet, but I will here once I can talk about it. And made a little bit of progress on Gods of Fire, not a whole lot, but a little bit. And I'm kind of like Chuck in that way, where I'm just kind of like poking away at it every now and then.
You're a story poker.
That's right. I watched Raya and the Last Dragon, I think it's called, on Disney the other day.
That?
I really enjoyed it, and what I thought was interesting, and I didn't think about this until about 3/4 of the way through the movie. It was a really good story. I love the ending. There was some good world building and different things that happened, but it was one of the only movies where I noticed that it was almost an all-female cast, almost. And I thought about that when at about the 3/4 mark, you get all these people together as the team, and I thought, there's only one guy in this team.
Lucky dude.
And it was interesting to me because it didn't automatically come off as like how Ghostbusters redid it, like as an all-female Ghostbusters team.
Come across
they beat you over the head.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like they came out and were like, we're doing Ghostbusters as female because females can do it better or whatever it is, right? But everybody hated the movie. What I thought about Raya,
shit.
What I thought about Raya, it was a really good story. It wasn't a were females doing female things better than men, but it was just a really good female-centric story, and I really appreciated that. Not only was it just a superhero that's a man, but now we're putting it in a woman. We're putting the costume on a woman and doing that. Like it was legitimately a good female-led story, and I really liked that. And so I encourage anybody to check it out. If it's kind of, you have to have a Disney Plus subscription, and then you have to pay for the movie. But it's whatever. It's $30, and it's cheaper than actually going to a movie theater. I think a lot of people were complaining about Mulan that way, where you had to watch you had to have the subscription and then pay for the movie, and they're like, I'm already paying the subscription, but you'd pay way more than that to go to the movie theater to watch it.
Exactly.
That was my first reaction, and then my eventual conclusion too. And then and a lot of times we used to buy the DVDs, and you'd buy them right when they came out for $14 or whatever, and you have like 6,000 DVDs you have to store forever.
Yep.
So
so it was a good movie. I definitely recommend it. It was a great story. And anyway, that's my update. I noticed. Let's hit. There was a question here earlier that I saw from Silent Wolf that we could talk about before we get into talking about Plottr. And like I said, everybody, if you're watching and you have a topic you'd like to talk about or a question for us, just post it in the chat and we'll try to get to it. Silent Wolf says, how many books out before you went full-time? Was that always a goal? So going full-time, I'm guessing, is that's what you're asking about, always being the goal. I think a lot of people want to be full-time authors, but there are a lot of people that don't. I think the amount of books out is really almost a subjective thing, because it really depends on how popular, how good the book sold, and then how well the series progresses and how people keep buying, but also what's your benchmark for going full time.
Right.
Like my benchmark was 60 grand in a year, and a lot of people are like, I want to be a 6-figure author, or I want to do this and do that. So that would mean
there's a 6 in the figure.
Yeah, exactly. There's a 6 in the figure. That's right.
I can't find my pop out chat. I'm so annoyed.
It's it's just, I guess it would be where your benchmark is at for going full time. But also one of the things I've noticed being a full-time author is it's not as easy as it's cracked up to be. And and there's a lot of things that can happen. Like I had a really phenomenal first year, and then the second year was horrible. And the third year is starting to pick back up. And now, granted, it was 2020, right? And everybody had a really crappy 2020 year. But it's just, there's a lot of different things that you have to look at for being a full-time writer. Yeah. Me personally, I would, after doing it, like when I did it, I remember talking about Scott and looking at all these different things that I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, and I could be a full-time author. But in hindsight, I think I would rather have kept the full-time job and just kept writing basically on the side or as a part-time job.
Write what you want and not have to rely on it for your income.
100%. Because it becomes such a big deal to sell the books, and then you're like, do I want to hit the 30-day novel or the 60-day novel? And then if you have problems with that novel, then you're stressed out because now you're behind the curve and all this other stuff. I would, if I could do it again, I would probably just keep the full-time job and then write as a part-time job. And the distinction between full-time writer and part-time writer, I mean, yeah, a lot of people are like, well, if you're not a full-time writer, then you're not successful. But
which is not true.
It's not true. And if you're making money, then you're a professional author. You don't have to be like, well, I'm an author. Like you could just say, I'm a garbage truck driver and I write really good books. And I don't know that full-time, it's a meta, right? Like it's like, I want to be a full-time author. Yeah, that's true. But if you can do it and make money and still, like if you have a job that you really enjoy doing, there's not really a requirement to be a full-time author. Like
exactly. And a lot of people I've talked to, I mean, granted, I'm kind of in that sweet spot. I don't have to worry about it for my income, so I kind of can do what I feel like doing. But a lot of the guys I've talked to in your situation, Josh, were that they've actually gone full-time. They seem to have this mindset that becoming a full-time author is like this destination. Like once I get there, everything's going to be okay. And that is kind of the opposite of what's true, because there is almost no security in any kind of creative business.
No.
You know? And full-time jobs provide security. So it's like once they get there, they're like, I've arrived, and oh shit.
Yeah, right. To do all this. I like Scott McGlasson's comment in the live chat. It says 60K plus less possible death. I think that's for reference Josh's.
That's true. That's a very good point.
I'll give you that.
A good deal.
That is an upside to going full time for you,
right?
Josh.
For me, yeah.
I used to always want to start a gym, and I was watching a bunch of podcasts a few years ago, and of some people who had been successful, or a YouTube channel actually with a gym, and a lot of people like, I like to work out, I'll start a gym and then I'll work out all the time. And the guy says, no, that is not what will happen at all. You will start a gym and you will never work out because your life now becomes keeping this gym financially solvent.
Right.
And so becoming full-time is not the solution, I guess, to all of your problems with writing. And like when we talk about going full-time, I just want to write, I want to make money doing what I love, and I love writing the most.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
if I have to work right now to kind of have some security, then I do that. But I always love writing more, and so I would like to do that. So, what was the original question, Josh?
It was just how many books did you have out till you went full time, and was that the goal?
Yeah,
And I think when I went full time in 2019, I had four. I think I had five. I had five out. No. I had four out because I finished Hale's War after I went full time, and then I finished Edge of Valor after I went full time.
and you had some
But
stuff in the
also,
pipe though.
I had stuff in the pipe, and also I was doing a ghostwrite project too.
You had advances that were coming in
Right.
on the stuff that was in the pipe.
So I think I had 4 completed novels, well, and all my short stories too. That I mean, didn't really get paid for any of that. I mean, I did, but it wasn't anything where you'd be like, oh, I write short stories for a living. So I had 4 finished novels out when I went full time, but also I have a wife that makes a crap ton of money. So, and my benchmark was super low, and I remember defending that benchmark like several times. When people were like, you need to make more money than that. I'm like, yeah, it'd be cool, but that's not what I need.
So my thing about that is to a little bit of as an aside, kind of going in a different direction with it is so people say, I want to make 6 figures so I can be a full-time author. The thing you have to remember is that you become a full-time author, you have to pay your own Social Security tax and all those types of things. So 6 figures is not 6 figures. Because if you work for an employer, you're used to them paying for your insurance and paying for your stuff. And so 6 figures as an author is really like $40,000 a year, if you're lucky. And because then you have to also promote your books and you have to produce your if you're doing indie stuff exclusively. And so once you take out the cost of book covers, cost of editors, cost of advertising, the cost of maintaining your website, paying your Social Security tax, paying your own health insurance, then you have then 6 figures. I would say if it's going to be your only source of income, and you're like a one income family, then you should probably aim really higher than you think, because you won't be able to live on 6 figures if it's like literally 100. Now, if 6 figures is $500,000, it's a whole different conversation, obviously. But that's still a lot of money, you know, considering most authors in history never sell more than 500 books. Or there's lots of statistics out there. And there's like, if you meet a traditionally published author, usually you'll find out they're also a teacher because they have to have a job unless they're still making.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're in that very tight bullseye of name authors, you know, most of them have other gigs.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said too, though, if you're not a full-time author and you're not dependent on that money, if you come up with a problem in your book that you can't solve in a day, then you're not stressed about. You could take a couple of days to think about it, or you can take a week to think about it. And
it's like,
being on a hard deadline is not
doesn't
fun.
get braces.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
there was another question in here by Scott McGlass, and
he made a comment there that said basically implying you have to include the cost of therapy into your
also
author.
True.
Yeah.
Here it is. I don't know if this is a meme or not, but how well does your spouse, significant other know about the plot and characters of your current project? For me, absolutely zero. I mean, I tell her, I got this idea for this, and that's about how far it goes.
She goes, "That's nice, honey."
Yeah, my wife doesn't know anything about them while I'm writing them, but she insists on being my first reader. So I actually have to make sure I do at least a moderate editing pass before I let anybody read it, and she insists on being the first person that reads anything.
Yeah, so my wife, we agree. She brought it up, but she read a couple of my first books, and then she's like, "I'm not going to read any more of your books," because it puts a lot of stress on the relationship, depending on the relationship. And for us, and she's a very critical reader and things like that. So she's like, she reads a lot. She has a literature degree, but
he said, "Not a meme,
not a meme." LOL. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's dependent. So on the last thought I'll say about the writing full-time stuff is that I desperately want to write full time because I want to change kind of some things, and I want to have freedom. It's not really about writing full time. It's about being able to kind of make my own day and like being, you know, working for myself, whether it's writing or anything else. And so for me, the fact that I'm not full time motivates me to work really, really hard because I want to make the leap. And I'm almost scared that if I do make the leap, then my motivation will not be there. So I'm a little bit scared of that. But
that's why I was talking about it being a destination for some people. In their head, they think, oh, if I just get to here, then I can relax. And it's kind of the opposite.
Right.
The stress amps up once you're depending on that.
You're solely if you're solely dependent on it. And the other thing is too, is I've been in my job for over 23 years. So it doesn't really make any sense. It makes sense for me to retire when it's the right time to retire, because I will have a little bit of a retirement. I will not be able to live on just my retirement because it's not really that good. But so I'm trying to make a smart move like that, but it is very motivating for me to have that as a goal.
Yes.
Even though I recognize it's not really the same goal for everyone.
I'm going to ask this question, then I got to step away for a minute. Silent Wolf asks, what craft knowledge completely changed your writing? And I'll be right back.
Wow.
You got to go to a Papa Chuck super wisdom for that one.
You make me laugh.
That's the goal. I was waiting for you to drink coffee when I made you laugh, but
that's I'm gonna have to think about that one for a minute, because that would take me back a ways. I remember, oh gosh, I think I was a sophomore or junior in high school, and I was taking a business prep class. Basically, you learn to type and file and shit like that in this class.
You learn how to be a secretary.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to learn to type, so that's the reason I took the class. And but the problem was I wouldn't do the assignments. I would sit there and just write short whatever popped into my head, just to show that I could type without making mistakes. I didn't see why I had to do what they were telling me to do, as long as I could demonstrate that I can type without screwing up because it was on a typewriter. It wasn't like I could delete and change it.
Right.
You know, this was pre-digital stuff. So I would sit there and write short stories about D&D characters going on adventures, or just whatever popped into my skull. And I remember one time the teacher was yelling at me for like the 10th time for doing that. But she actually had taken the time to read it, and she made the comment that the bad guy's motivations were weak. And it's like, and it was just like a one-off sentence in the middle of telling me she was going to flunk me because I wasn't doing the assignments.
Yeah.
But that stuck in my head, because I started really thinking about it. I'm like, well, you know, I mean, that's the first time I realized that the bad guys are the hero of their own story. They're not just these little cutouts that are there to be a foil for the protagonist. And that's when I really started thinking about making villains as deep a character as you do the heroes and the whatevers. So that one stands out in mind. There's been some others down the road, but I mean,
I love that story because it's writing craft from a completely unexpected source. So
right, you know, you just got to keep your ears open. Yeah, but that one stands out. And then I had a couple of good professors in college who told me stuff that I remember. But yeah, I think that one jumps out in my head just because it kind of came out of the blue. You know, it came out of me just being an ornery teenager. So you know.
Some of the best lessons come through that sort of thing. I remember I always did bad in math because I was always reading a book, and they'd be like, and I'd always get busted to be reading a book. But so, I guess for me, a couple, like a non-obvious one is I got a master's degree in public administration, thinking that would be great for my job. In one of the classes, we had to write these papers, and like your term paper, most of the time in college, like you have to write a 20-page term paper. And it's really intimidating. Well, this was the other way. The instructor was like, it has to be one page. And if you go one word over that one page, it's a letter grade off. And the logic if you're right. Yeah. And I realized really quickly, it's really hard to write a tight, concise, paper or whatever that still conveys all the meaning. And the reason for that is because if you're writing briefs for like the mayor or the chief of police or whoever your boss is, they're going to get 50 of these a day. They can't read 10 pages. It's got to have all the stuff in a concise, professional sounding thing. And so it taught me how to write very tight and the value of writing concise, but still having everything in there. So there's that. And then there's just several books, like listening to Stephen King's book, Memoirs of the Craft, and reading the Strunk and White Manual of Style several times. That one's really good. There's one by, I think, Remy and Brown that's self-editing for fiction writers. It's really good. Just a few books, and I just take a little piece out of all of them. The Terry Brooks, is it Terry Brooks? Not Terry Brooks. That's the sci-fi.
Terry Brooks did a writing book that was pretty
No,
good.
Larry Brooks.
Larry Brooks.
Terry Brooks wrote Sword Shore, I think. But
yeah, but he did a writing book too.
Okay. Larry Brooks, he wrote the Story Engineering, which I still think is a really great book on structure and kind of where, not so much on how you do it completely, but kind of where things need to happen. And the biggest point I remember him saying is by the 75% into your book, you need to have everything in place to solve the problem. And then the last part of the book is solving the problem. You know, otherwise you wind up getting to the last page and somebody shows up and hands them a lightsaber and then they're able to win. And that's the Deus Ex Machina, which is dumb. But and it doesn't need to be super obvious, but they have to have all the tools and allies and basic idea of what they're going to do to execute their plan by a certain point in the book. And if it comes after that point, it sounds like you just slapped an ending on it and it sucks.
Right.
And I thought that was a really good tip.
I think one of the things that really affected my writing, and this is going to sound kind of cliche, is just reading a whole bunch of different books in different genres, and then finishing novels that I worked on. And like, so I remember when I first really got into writing as I thought would be a career back in like 2011, 2012, this was right around the time that Scott and I first started getting together and drinking coffee and talking about books. I was working on an idea for a kind of like not really a portal fantasy, but it was you go to this world and there's dinosaurs on that world. And I thought it was a really cool idea. And then I wrote probably like 50,000 words into that book and realized that I had really not done anything with it. Nothing happened. And I just moved on and then worked on a smaller project. And I think and that's right around the time when we started doing short stories. And I don't think that short stories are really a viable way to earn money.
Not anymore, no.
But they are, I think, really good at like closing loops and finishing stories. And so if you can
developing craft, I think that's the best thing you can do is just write short story after short story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it helps you, like you learn and there's a lot of books that talk about character arcs and plot arcs and things like that, but you can close those loops and finish those arcs easier in a short story than you can in a novel.
Get more reps in.
Exactly. And so I've written a number of those, and then also just finishing books. I've gotten a lot better at knowing where I need to put things into the story. Like you're saying, Scott, you get to the end of the book and you have a Deus Ex Machina. Well, in your first draft, that might happen, and then you get to the end of the book and you have that Deus Ex Machina. But if that's what you want to have happen in your book, then you can go back and put those things into the story ahead of time, so that when the reader finally gets there, it's not a Deus Ex Machina. You can work it so your story actually makes sense at the ending. And like there's tons of books on story out there, but I think taking little bits of that and then just practicing your writing, I think I don't know that there's one single point that I can say that's what really changed it for me.
As a short aside, I'm looking over all my different craft writing books, and I remember, so around 2006, 2007, I read a book called Writing the Breakout Novel by Donald Mass, and he was an editor of a bunch of things. And I read it over and over and over again because the basic premise is the secret to success is writing the best possible book you can. But the reason I bring it up as an aside is because it talked about ebooks then, and it was like ebooks. We don't really know if they're going to be a factor because but that was 2007 or 2008, and so like I think there might have been an ebook reader at the time, but it was like $275. Nobody bought them,
right?
And then by come around 2010, 2011, now they're affordable. People are buying them like crazy. Amazon is basically trying to get all the content they can on them, and loading up all all of the what's the common usage stuff, and then encouraging people to write books and put them on their, and basically opening it up to authors so that they could get content onto their platform.
One of my biggest problems with when I first started writing was I never had a problem writing words. I would get to a point and look at the story and go, it's too short. And say like, well, the story that I wrote is 40,000 words, but that's the whole story. And as I've got better, like now I plot a story and I'm like, man, that's going to be 120,000 words. Because I'm better now at doing different things with the characters and doing different things with the chapters,
making things interesting. So the original part of that question was how many novels? Do we want to talk about that at all? We kind of covered it in. It depends.
Well, that was a separate question. That was talking about the full time.
Okay. Yeah, you're
right. But yeah, you could talk about that if you want to.
Oh no, because I was watching the live chat and Rick is answering chat. He says he's written Rick Partlow has written 43 novels, has 12 to 13 short stories. And if you look further up in the chat, Rick's not a huge fan of writing
short stories is tedious. But I mean, that's I don't think that's the same for everyone. I think I like writing going in between writing short stories and novels.
Rick is a good case study because he's obviously done lots and lots of writing, and recently he's had a gratuitous amount of success with the Dropship Troopers series. So good, congratulations, the second golf clap. He's not only the first person here, but the first person to make a fucking shit ton of money.
I like Scott McGlasson's thing. Writing a short story isn't tedious until you get towards the end and you're up against your word count, and then it gets extremely tedious. You're at 100%. I'm right there with you.
Well, we just write over it as your word count. Your word count.
It's really a suggestion.
We don't need no stinking word count.
Nathan Peddle says, write down everything that happens in the story, and then in your second draft, make it look like you knew what you were doing all along. And that's from Neil Gaiman. That's 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Sorry.
I think it's different from everybody though, because I think there's a lot of people that read every book on storytelling before they write their novel or their story. And I think it's just practice. It's like when you're a painter, you start out being an artist, all your artwork sucks until you get really good at it. Like there's a lot of people I see these hyper realistic drawings that people do with pencil, and I'm like, that's crazy. But they didn't start
some time.
They didn't start doing that stuff. They started out drawing a stick figure and going, this is my dad. Draw a stick figure.
When I was a kid, my mom was a teacher and she was a librarian and all that. And so I had so there was all these older kids around, like from high school age when I was younger. And one of them was a really good artist. And he said, you want to learn how to draw all the time. He said, just never stop drawing. And that's basically the same thing, is just doing that. So like the last thought on craft is, if you want to talk about craft a lot and sound really smart about craft, read lots of craft books. But if you want to be a writer, you need to read the craft books, but you need to mostly write.
Yeah, you write.
I think there's ways.
Practice.
There's way to. Yeah, you definitely got to get in the reps. You got to put in the time, develop the skills, and whatnot. Do we want to talk about Plottr?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Well, first, since we're more than halfway through, we don't have a show sponsor today, but if you need coffee, keystroke.medium.com/coffee, go and pick some up.
It wouldn't be wrong.
You can get a whole bean now, and that's
what I do.
We're in the process of getting the K-Cups. I'm trying to work that out and to see what we need to do for that. So if you're a K-Cup person, it's in the pipeline, as it were. keystroke.medium.com/coffee. Get some writer's block, and it will help you solve your writer's block.
I know me and Bart of today would both drink the decaf. But I don't know if anybody else wants to vote for that. Put it in the chat, please.
Yeah.
Because I like to drink the decaf in the evening when I still want kind of the psychological cue that goes with drinking coffee, but I don't want to be up all night because I'm already going to be up all night.
Yeah.
We learned by doing. James T. Kurt is what Rick says.
True. So I found this recently, this Plottr program, and if you're not a plotter, this might not apply to you, but it's a interesting tool. And I think, like, we've talked a lot about Scrivener on this program, and a lot of people get kind of turned off by Scrivener's complexity and like just how big the program is. Like, I don't want to spend hours and hours and hours learning a new program. Plottr, though, I've only really looked at it for maybe 45 minutes total. And it is super easy to use. It's very intuitive. And for what I want to use it for, I think it's it's really going to help me this year because I on my Savage Star project, I want to try to do that all through transcription. And this will help me with that because of the phone app.
So
and I'll get into that.
Tell us
a little
briefly
bit
about
more.
your transcription thing, because you've explained to me what you're doing with that. But if I get this correctly, you're making your outlines and then you're transcribing into a voice recorder, not onto an app, and then uploading it.
So
and you do the whole first draft that way.
I've got my Olympus voice recorder and I've got a really long microphone cord, so I can put this somewhere, and then I've got like a 10-foot cord and it's a powered mic, so it cuts off a lot of sound or whatever. So anyway, I just read off my outline and kind of just talk through the story on audio, and then I plug it into my computer. I've got Windows Dragon Professional 13 is, I don't know, I can't.
Dragon Naturally Speaking for PC Home Edition.
Yeah, that's it.
No, like that. But it has to be the professional edition.
Professional edition, but it's not medical is what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the other one.
I can plug this into Dragon and transcribe the audio file, and then just drop that into Scrivener and go from there. So what I'm doing is I'm going to try to do that for the entire book, for the first draft, and then go through and kind of edit and clean it up and all that stuff and see how well that process works. And I have been typing out the outline and then printing it off so I have the paper, and then taking that with me wherever I go to do the recording. Of course, you have a lot of paper. Sometimes my outlines get to like 44 pages long, and that's a lot of paper to carry around. And just Jeff Haskell mentioned this in our writer group the other day, and I looked at it, and it seems like it's going to be very helpful in the process I want to do for this book, because I can still do my notes on paper if I want to, but I can put everything in this Plottr program, work on it on the computer, and then when I want to go and do the actual transcription, I can open the app and just look at the scene or chapter on my phone and do the recording just off of that on the audio recording. And since I always have my phone with me anyway, it's not something else that I have to bring along. I don't actually have to do it on my phone. I can do it on the computer and then look at it on my phone. And I think that I'm hoping that that's going to improve my word production overall.
Yeah.
And speed up the process.
I'm really curious to see how that works, because it's going to develop a new mental discipline. So tell us about Plottr.
So I've got it pulled up on my other screen here. This is what the opening of Plottr looks like. And the thing I like about this is that it's super simple to use. You can go in here and you can create different project files. You do blank, open existing, create from template. This is one of the most interesting things I like about this program.
I like this a lot.
Is if you want to just set it up like I've created you can create a blank one, and this is basically what it looks like. You've got project, you've got timeline, outline. The cool thing I like about this is you can do multiple books in one. And it allows you to kind of go through. You can even add your book cover if you want, but then you can go into the book and you can create multiple characters and timelines and chapters, and it's super easy. You just click, right? And you can drag them around, and it automatically renumbers them. Unless you change the name, you can just drag them around and then it shows up here. I've got a little bit of that here. I'll show later. But this is the thing that I like about on my phone. I don't have the project pulled up here. I'll try to pull it up here. But anyway, we'll get into a little bit of that. The template thing is really cool though, because we've talked a lot about on this show about the snowflake method, about the story circle, the hero's journey. There's a lot of things that we've talked about, but they're not easy. I haven't found any easy way to actually implement them in your process. So this program gives you a way to implement it. So if you want to do the hero's journey, you can create a template like this, and it gives you what you need, like the ordinary world, the call of adventure. These are the things that you need to have in your story if that's the kind of story that you're going with. Same thing with the 6-stage plot. It tells you what you need. The snowflake method, it gives you this and you can build it from there. The story cycle, it tells you what you need and how to build your story out from there. Right. I think that's super cool.
Very cool. And I don't want people to think that this is all you get. If you actually start a file from one of these templates, um, all of those points that show up in that little window will actually appear on the timeline, and it'll say in chapter 1, this is what you expect if you're doing the hero's journey or whatever, and it'll take you through all of those points. And you can just write in what you want to happen in those, yeah, like that. And you can just fill in each of those sections what you want to happen in your story.
Yep.
And then when you're ready to go draft, you have this little, this little roadmap to get you from the beginning to the end of whatever method it was you were trying to use. And I think that is super useful for folks that want to put the time in.
I'll see if I can bring up.
I've got the action adventure one open. It was kind of cool.
And that's the one I just brought up too. And it tells
Yeah.
you where things need to happen at what point, depending on how long. And obviously these could be broken down a little bit even further. But like
Right.
this, for instance, this tells you if you want to do exactly what this template is telling you, it gives you 18 chapters to do what you need to do in the story. And it tells you in chapter 13, you need to attain a goal. In chapter 14, you have to battle the henchman. In chapter 15, you battle the villain. Then you have a twist, and then you have the resolution and the conclusion. It tells you everything that you need in the story
Yeah.
to
what's
write a
also
complete
neat-
story.
What's also kind of neat is if you look up at the top there, you can see it says beginning, middle, and end. If you click on one of those, it isolates the chapters that should encompass like Act 1, the middle Act 2, and then the end Act 3.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at mine. How do you type in there? Because I can't get the chapter to open to write the details in there. Are you on outline?
So this is an outline mode, and then an outline mode, it gives you like the
Oh,
main
there it
plot
goes.
circumstance, and then the hero circumstance is revealed, and then you can just kind
But
of
like
write
go to chapter one that doesn't have a pre thing in there. How do you? Because I can't get mine to type anything. So I click on chapter 1, and I'm looking for a box to type in.
Well, are you in timeline or outline?
I'm in outline.
So you click on chapter
when
1,
when
and
I
then you
click on the
you
box
click
in
on the
timeline, it opens it up.
Yeah, mine's not doing that.
If you're in the outline, so like here at chapter 2, it gives you a little highlighted box.
Yeah, mine doesn't do that. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong.
Okay.
And
And then
I'll ask you after the show.
You have to save it and whatever. So let's see. There's a couple questions I want to get to before we move on. What is Plottr getting you on top? Josh, what is Plottr getting you on top of, say, a word out? Okay, so on a word outline, this was Silent Wolf's question. What is Plottr getting you on top of, say, a word outline? So in Word, you could do pretty much the same thing, right? But this makes it a little bit more intuitive, especially if you're doing one of the templates. Now, what I've done, let me see if I can bring up mine, because I can show you how I'm going to use it on my my projects. Let's go into, where are you? Dropbox. Writing. Stars plot. Open. So this is I think that's not it. Interesting. It's not the same one. Okay, so I'll have to. Basically, what I'm going to do is here. I'll create a new blank project because I just created a blank one, and then in chapter 1, I'll go to the outline. Chapter 1. Oh, you're right, Scott. You were having.
Yeah, I was having a hard time figuring that out.
All right, go to timeline.
I did that. I can create that.
Can I show mine? I mean, mine's.
Yeah, you can.
So
there, I got it to work there. Let me see if I go.
Oh, there you go. You got it. All right.
Okay, so you have to go to the timeline. It looks like you have to go to the timeline and create a deal.
Oh, I think I got it.
So basically, what I'm doing is I'll have like this is the main character and this is chapter 1. You go in here, and I will say, talking with wife, leaving on a new mission, and that'll be my notes for that that scene. It's not everything, but it's just for that. And then I'll when I open it on my phone, you basically see the same thing, and then I will just talk through my notes in that scene. But it also looks like you can basically just type everything that you want in here, and it exports to Word and Scrivener, which is one of the interesting things that I thought was cool. You can just go through here and outline and plot, and then export the whole thing as a Word document. I wish I could bring up the one that I had on my Mac. I'll have to check that out. For some reason,
did you? Because I made the mistake of I created it on my Mac, and then I saved it to Dropbox so I could sync it with my phone, and it created two. So to make sure you're opening the right one, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at it. Using Plottr, I think for me, because I do a lot of just story notes before I start writing. You can go in here, you can create the story notes. And then you can see, like, I can add different plot lines or different characters, if you will, like we can do here. And then you can, if you don't have anything in the villain in chapter 1, you could put them in chapter 2. And then you have these starter templates, but you don't have to do that. You can do plus, and this should do open again.
Yeah.
And go in here and type what you want. The cool thing I think about this program is, like, here you can add a chapter between, and it just automatically adds and it moves everything. So, but then if I want to bring chapter 4 really should be chapter 2, I'll bring that over here and swap it and move it here, and then everything moves with it and pushes the rest up.
And another neat thing about it, if you're not really down with the whole plotting out your chapters and everything, even if you don't want to use that, if you look up at the top there, you can see you've got character, places, notes. You can keep track of all your character names, all of the places they visit, so on and so forth. So, like, if you're writing a trilogy and they go somewhere in book 1 and you want them to go back there in book 3, but you can't remember crap about it, boom, right there, you've got it right in front of you. I mean, I think that's super useful too, even for people that don't plot that much.
I figured out what I was doing wrong, and maybe it wasn't watching. So if you go to the timeline and you go to your timeline, so I was trying to click on the chapter and make it open up a box, but you don't. You hit a plus button, go down to the you hit it there, and then so create something, and you can drag those around. So maybe you were doing that and I wasn't watching, but once I have that little box there, then you click on that and you have all of your text boxes super easy.
And that's the thing, you can drag it between characters and chapters.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can figure out how to tag, because there are tags that you can do.
If you go back to where you were.
So that's really cool. Is you have a main plot, a subplot. You can have like different story arcs.
See where it says attributes? That's where you put your tags for, like, searching or whatever. I think that's the way I read it.
Let's see here.
I'm going to try and export.
And if you don't find this confusing enough, I did notice there were quite a few tutorial videos on
and
YouTube.
I haven't watched any of them yet, so that's probably a good thing to do before we start the show. But
well, I've watched a couple, and I'm going to work on this week, and I'll probably do a couple brief ones. The thing I really like about this is
it feels really slick.
Like it's super simple. Like we can go in and kind of figure it out on our own. Like we're talking through it and doing different things. And I get a lot of people that don't like Scrivener because of how complicated Scrivener is, and how much there is to the program, like changing icons and doing revisions and all this. So there's so much stuff in Scrivener, and I've been using it for years, and I still don't know everything about it. But this is super simple, like really, really super simple.
Really intuitive. It really is.
And I think that I don't know that it's necessarily a game changer, but for me, the way that I want to do my next project, this is exactly what I need to go through the project. And because I can still transcribe and then drop that into Scrivener and drag it around and use Scrivener that way. You could do it for Word too. But
I definitely think it's going to be more useful for people who do a lot of plotting out beforehand. If you do a lot of pre-work and you have those big outlines, I think this would be super useful for you. But I also think it would be useful for pantsers too, just for keeping up with everything. If you have big series and stuff. So it's overall a product worth having, I think.
Well, and it looks like you'll be able to add multiple books and then track characters through different books.
Exactly.
And that's really interesting to me, because then you get like to book 2 and you have a character doing something, and maybe they didn't do that in book 1. You can easily go back and see, oh, I didn't do that in book 1, and change it around and work with it. I think that's going to be really, really interesting the deeper I get into it. But even just this aspect of just creating multiple scenes and being able to drag them around, I think that's oh, look, you can even change how it looks.
Yeah, I've got mine going vertically up and down the screen, so I can.
That's
Excuse me.
oh,
Yeah,
cool.
I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I like it that way myself.
So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about this as as we learn about it. I'll probably do a couple of videos that are just short kind of tutorial videos or explanations on how I'm going to use it. One of the things that Scott and I were talking about too is that it's relatively inexpensive.
Oh yeah.
Especially for the way that I'm going to do it, I'm using it on my phones. And one of the things that was confusing to us is that there's 2 separate subscription points that you need to hit here. So you have the PC and or Mac license version for the computer. You can get 1 license, and let me see if I can bring up the prices for this. You have 1 license for 1 device. Here, I got it.
Because I was first looking at it on the phone, and I was like, people are like, it's a subscription. I'm like, it's 99 cents a month.
Right.
And I'm like,
so
that's nothing.
That exact 100%. It's 99 cents a month or $9.99 a year for the app. And I don't know that it's on Android. I know for sure that it's on iPhone. But that is separate from this. The app and the computer program are separate, even though you can open the same project on your phone and on your computer. It goes back and forth. And with Scrivener, there's, depending on if you're using the Windows or iOS or Mac version, you can't open the Windows version of Scrivener on your iPhone. I think it has to be.
Yeah, that's the problem I run into with a lot of stuff, because I've got a PC I work on, and then I've got an iPhone.
Yeah, and so this goes back and forth, but the prices are different. So $25 for the annual, or you can do $100 for a one-time fee for 1 license. And so I did the 3 license so I could use it at least on 2 computers. I just did the annual, but if you have it for more than 3 years, or you plan on using it for more than 3 years, the lifetime would be probably a little more cost effective.
Free trial is probably a good way to go. See if
And there's a 30-day free trial too, which is what I signed up on originally and kind of messed around with it. But it's for what you're getting. If you're a big plotter, I think this is a really good way to go.
Or if you want to be more of a plotter.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I can definitely see this helping me plan things ahead a little bit better than I already do.
And I think just the visual aspect of seeing it like this, and I know there's other programs that do this too, and you can kind of do this with the note card deal in Scrivener, but it's not this intuitive.
It's
like
not
you can do color codings, and that's what I did for Edge of Valor. I had color codings for every character, and that helped me visually see it. But seeing it like this in a visual timeline where it's separated by chapters and character, and you don't even have to do character, you can do place here too. It could be anything in this line. I think that's very. I'm
curious to see what the export looks like, but I guess we can probably do that after the show and tinker around with that.
And that's the thing; it's exportable to Word or to Scrivener, and I want to see. I'll mess around with it a little bit and see what the export to Word looks like, because if you can create the scenes here and then export that to Word, then it's just open it up in Word and write the scene out in Word. That would be really good too.
Yeah,
you don't have to do anything different. So I'll have to play around with that a lot. But I saw this weekend, and I thought it would be fun to talk about on the show, even though we're learning as well as we're talking about it. But as tools go, there are some tools that are really good, like Pro Writing Aid. If you download that and run it in Word while you're working, even Grammarly, working alongside.
Perfected is also good.
Perfected is good too.
Yeah, that's the one I like.
Yeah. Tools that are easy to learn and functional. Like this is functional for me because I'm a plotter. If you're not, then this probably wouldn't be really good to you. But it's also, you don't have to use it as you could just use it for idea generation and then open up Word and write. Like that's the thing I think about some software is it becomes too complicated or it becomes too involved and you're like, I just want to do this. And there's not really a good program that's specifically designed to do that. I think if you want to be a plotter though, this would, I mean, it's in the name, right? So, oh, hi Shadow. Hi Shadow, the illustrator is here watching. Hello. So yeah, I think in the coming weeks, I'll do a couple of videos like this as I go through and kind of learn what I'm doing. But I thought it was really cool. I thought I'd never heard of it before. And I'm really interested to see because Dave Chesson is doing this Atticus thing too, but it's kind of a Scrivener alternative. And so I'm interested to see how that comes out too. I think it's in beta right now, but it's a closed beta. And I think they're close to having a...
Really? I didn't know he was doing that.
Yeah, I've seen screenshots of the program, and it's purported to be, and it looks like a browser-based alternative to Scrivener, but it doesn't look as complicated. Like the compile is super easy. It's not a really complicated, like you have to do heading and all this stuff. It just does it all for you. I think talking about writing tools is great for our show, just because we're, for the most part, talking to writers, and talking about storytelling and craft and all that is good. But I think having really good tools also is helpful. I mean, even if you don't plot, even if you just want to try it out and look at your story for plot holes, I think this would be a good alternative too for that.
Well, and again, the big draw for me is I really like these templates. I think they're they can really help people stay focused on the story they're trying to tell.
Yep.
If used properly.
They should be customizable too, so you can tweak them the way you want and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I like the story circle deal. I've looked at that a lot. So I might try to use that in a project, maybe even for a short story. And I think that maybe I have a short story I've got to write for Chris Kennedy that's due in June, and maybe I'll use this for the short story as well, and use one of those methods. That's, I think, one of the things about writers is we get kind of stuck in a process, and we don't want to try new things. And that's one of the things I like about short stories is doing new things, but also trying new processes like this. You're not gonna get locked in for
right.
For a year working on a project. You can do a short story that's 10,000 words, use this to plot out that story. And like Scott was saying earlier, Scott McGlasson said, it's not tedious until you get to the end on the cap on the word count. Here you can look at your story and go exactly what the points you need to tell that story in this certain way, and it might not get away from you that way. You can kind of stay focused on what you're writing.
Okay, so this is kind of disturbing. No, but I'm
Did you
looking
just find the dinosaur porn template or something?
Yeah, more disturbing than that. So I'm looking at the live chat, and it says Scott Moon, and it started to make well, I'm not logged in as Scott Moon. I'm logged in as Scott Moon Writer, so somebody else is logged in as Scott Moon typing a message.
Oh, nice. Well, I see the how long deal.
Yeah, that's Scott not Moon. Me.
Okay.
Nice. I wonder if one of my kids is typing a message in Fortnite.
It probably is. One would hope.
That's awesome. Let's see.
It's probably one of your kids wanting to know when you're going to be done. Lou
Holston says,
my son's playing Fortnite right now. So
I think the main thing about Atticus is that it should be a vellum replacement. Oh yeah, that's true.
That would be nice.
I forgot about that. It looks like it's going to be Scrivener and vellum in one thing.
Oh, now that's appealing to me.
Yeah. Because I think vellum is really good, especially if you're doing self-publishing. Vellum is I think it's not necessary, but instead of trying to format a Word document to make it a Mobi or whatever else, and I guess even you don't even
changed
need
it
Mobis anymore.
Now you don't need Mobi. Now they have to do some sort of KDP friendly EPUB or EPUB whatever. They've changed.
Right.
Amazon's changed it.
Right.
Oh, it's not Moby anymore?
No, it's
No,
just
go
like
away
you
from
just
that.
need an EPUB or something.
And you can still use a
wow.
Word document too if you do that. It just depends. Like a lot of people in some other groups we have, they've been doing it the same way for a long time, and they're perfectly fine using the Word document because they got it to work and they have their template. But
Right.
Yeah.
when I did a Word document, especially formatting a paperback book,
Yeah.
it's like I'd almost rather die than ever try it again. It's just so hard.
Yeah, I want to see. I'm excited for Atticus to come out. We'll definitely do a show on Atticus when it comes out. But yeah, everybody that joined us in the live chat, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us on the Monday morning. And it was I think we had a lot of good questions for the AMA. I like doing AMAs where we actually get questions. Those are fun to talk about.
Yeah, those are always useful.
Good times.
If you're listening on the audio feed and you didn't know, we have a live feed on Monday mornings. Friday at 2. Is that the time that they're doing it? Or did they change their schedule again? I can't remember who they're... Let's see. Let's look on the calendar and see. Tomorrow morning should be Walt Robillard on Coffee and Concepts. I don't see... Oh, wait. I'm on the wrong calendar. Maybe I'm not. I don't know what... the Writer's Journey has coming up on Friday. We all had the week off last week, so there was you didn't miss anything. We were just off. Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern. There you go. Thanks, Kayleen, for the Writer's Journey. We have Kayleen doing story time too. If you missed that, she does first chapters of books and does a phenomenal job narrating them. And that is on our Facebook and on our YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube at Keystroke Medium. Actually, it's youtube.com. It's Keystroke Medium. There's no story time this week. Definitely next week. Okay, thanks, Kayleen. Appreciate that. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on our channel. A lot of different shows that kind of feed the need for different aspects of writing, especially Coffee and Concepts. If you need coffee, watch that because he was talking about some expensive coffee last week. It was like $800 a bag or something. I was like, not doing it.
Not going there.
Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Come back next week. We'll talk about some reading. We'll talk about some writing and, of course, everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. See ya.
Later, guys.